12 managers in 13 years. 12 men handed the keys to the biggest club in English football, and 12 men shown the door. This is how Manchester United did it again, sacking yet another head coach, and how a familiar face walked back through the doors at Old Trafford to remind everyone what the badge actually means. Let's start with a number. 6 permanent managers since Sir Alex Ferguson retired in May 2013. David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Erik ten Hag, Ruben Amorim. Scattered between them, a parade of caretakers and interim appointments. Ryan Giggs, Michael Carrick, Ralph Rangnick, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Darren Fletcher, and then Michael Carrick again. That's not a football club's managerial history. That's a revolving door spinning so fast it's generating its own wind. To understand why January 2026 hit different, why this particular sacking felt like the moment United fans collectively looked in the mirror and asked themselves what on earth was happening to their club, you need to go back to the autumn of 2024, October 28th, 2024. Manchester United sacked Erik ten Hag. The club was sitting 14th in the Premier League, having managed just 4 wins all season. Grim stuff, but there was hope, because 4 days later, on November 1st, United announced the appointment of Ruben Amorim from Sporting CP. This was a man who transformed Sporting into Portuguese champions, a young, dynamic coach with a clear tactical identity built around a 3-4-3 system. The football world nodded approvingly. This felt different, like United had finally found someone with genuine vision. For a brief, glittering moment, it looked like they had. Amorim's debut was a workmanlike 1-1 draw away at Ipswich on November 24th. Nothing spectacular, but you could see the framework being built. And then, on December 15th, 2024, something extraordinary happened. Manchester United beat Manchester City 2-1 away from home. Amorim became the first United manager to win his first Manchester derby since Sir Alex Ferguson himself. Old Trafford dreamed, social media erupted. This was it. This was the one. Except it wasn't. The cracks didn't just appear, they ruptured. On January 19th, 2025, after a humiliating 3-1 defeat to Brighton at Old Trafford, the 4th loss in 5 home games, Ruben Amorim walked into the press room and dropped a bomb. He called his squad probably the worst team in the history of Manchester United. There's a fine line between brutal honesty and self-destruction, and most people watching that press conference felt Amorim had just thrown himself over it. You can criticize your players behind closed doors, you can demand more in training, but standing in front of the world's media and labeling a Manchester United squad the worst in the club's 146-year history. That's not motivation, that's detonation. The 2024-25 season staggered to its conclusion like a wounded animal. United finished 15th in the Premier League. 15th. Let that sink in. But here's what made it truly maddening. Amorim actually led United to the Europa League final in Bilbao in May 2025. For one night, hope flickered again. Then Tottenham Hotspur beat them 1-0, and that flickering hope was snuffed out entirely. No trophy, no European football, a 15th place league finish, and a squad that had been publicly humiliated by their own manager. The summer of 2025 was supposed to fix everything. United invested heavily. When you add it all up, the club spent around £250 million on new players after Amorim arrived. £250 million, and this is a club that reported record revenues of £666.5 million in the year to June 2025, but still posted a net loss of £33 million. The money was flowing in and flooding out, and the results on the pitch weren't matching the investment off it. The 2025-26 season began with signs of improvement. Amorim even won his first Manager of the Month award in October 2025, a run that included a win at Anfield. United fans dared to believe again, but underneath the surface, something toxic was brewing. August 27th, 2025. Remember this date. Manchester United, one of the most decorated clubs in the history of English football, were knocked out of the EFL Cup by Grimsby Town. Grimsby Town, a League Two side. The game finished 2-2 after full-time, with Grimsby going 2-0 up in the first half, then United were beaten 12-11 on penalties. 12-11. That's not a penalty shootout, that's a hostage situation. The humiliation was total and complete, and you could feel the ground shifting beneath Amorim's feet. What ultimately ended Ruben Amorim's time at Manchester United wasn't a single result. It was a pattern of behaviour, a rigidity that bordered on stubbornness, and a relationship with the club's football operations that deteriorated beyond repair. The inside story, as reported by ESPN and Sky Sports, reveals this was a slow-burning implosion. The tactical inflexibility was the root of it. Amorim's 3-4-3 was his identity, what made him successful at Sporting. But the Premier League is a different beast, and when the system wasn't working, Amorim refused to adapt. There's a telling incident in late December 2025. United drew 1-1 with Wolves at Old Trafford. Wolves arrived with just 2 points from 18 games. 2 points. They were already relegated in all but mathematics, and Amorim chose to match up with a back three against them rather than exploit their obvious vulnerability. Jason Wilcox, the director of football, questioned the decision. Amorim took the feedback badly. That's not a disagreement, that's a fracture. Then comes January 4th, 2026. United drew 1-1 at Elland Road against Leeds. It was a frustrating result, but what happened afterward sealed Amorim's fate. In his post-match press conference, Ruben Amorim looked directly into the camera and told United's hierarchy to do your jobs. Live on television, in front of millions. The man who had called his players the worst in history was now publicly challenging his employers. Less than 24 hours later, on January 5th, 2026, Manchester United sacked Ruben Amorim. The club were 6th at the time, not 15th, like when Ten Hag was sacked, 6th. But the internal damage was catastrophic. Multiple sources confirmed that the decision was the culmination of mounting concerns over leadership, communication and tactical rigidity rather than any single result. Gary Neville, United's most prominent pundit and a man who has seen it all at Old Trafford, admitted he was shocked by the speed of it. "I thought they'd get through another couple of weeks," he told Sky Sports News. Obviously, it has become that challenging internally that they decided to do it very quickly. Rio Ferdinand was more direct. "That's been the reason why it's been so sharp and quick overnight," he said on his YouTube channel, referencing Amorim's explosive comments. His comments a few hours ago. Let's look at the cold hard numbers. Amorim won only 24 of his 63 games in charge across all competitions. That's a 38.1% win rate, the worst of any permanent United manager since Ferguson. In the Premier League specifically, it's even worse. He won just 15 of 47 league games. That's a 32% win rate. He lost 19. His average of 1.23 points per game is the lowest of any Manchester United manager in the entire Premier League era. Lower than Moyes, lower than Van Gaal, lower even than Rangnick, who managed 1.54 as an interim. And his goals conceded per game of 1.53 in the league is the worst defensive record of any United boss in the Premier League era, according to Opta. On Christmas Eve 2025, Amorim had given an interview that, in hindsight, reads like a resignation letter. "I have the feeling that if we have to play a perfect 3-4-3, we need to spend a lot of money, and we need time," he said. "I'm starting to understand that is not going to happen." He knew. Deep down, he knew. The system he was married to required players United couldn't afford and time the club wasn't willing to give. Darren Fletcher, the club's under-18s head coach, stepped in as caretaker for a week. And then, on January 13th, 2026, Manchester United made a phone call to Middlesbrough. Michael Carrick was coming home. Carrick's relationship with Manchester United is deeply personal. He spent 12 years as a player at the club, winning 5 Premier League titles, a Champions League, and a Europa League. He served as a caretaker manager briefly in 2021. And he had gone to Middlesbrough, taken a mid-table championship club, and turned them into genuine contenders. He understood United, he understood what the badge meant, and crucially, he understood that what this squad needed wasn't a new tactical revolution. It needed clarity, belief, and freedom. 4 days after his appointment, on January 17th, 2026, Michael Carrick led Manchester United to a 2-0 victory over Manchester City at Old Trafford. United's first home derby win since January 2023. 4 days, that's all it took. The stadium erupted, the players looked like a completely different team, and the transformation was only beginning. A week later, on January 25th, Carrick's United went to the Emirates and beat Arsenal 3-2. Arsenal, away from home. This wasn't a new manager bounce, this was a genuine shift in identity. The numbers tell a story that borders on the absurd. In total, Michael Carrick has taken charge of 14 Premier League matches. He has won 10 of them, drawn 2, lost just 2. That's 32 points from 14 games, an average of 2.28 points per match. Project that over a full 38-game season, and you get 86 points. 86. That's title-winning form, the kind of form that hasn't been seen at Old Trafford since the Ferguson era. And at the heart of this renaissance, playing the best football of his career, is Bruno Fernandes. The Manchester United captain has been absolutely extraordinary under Carrick. With 3 matches still remaining in the campaign, Fernandes has already matched the Premier League single-season assist record with 20, level with Thierry Henry's 20-023 mark and Kevin De Bruyne's 2019-20 record. He's created 120 chances this season according to Opta, 120. He has become the second fastest player to reach 200 goal contributions in Manchester United's history, with 104 goals and 96 assists. And on March 15th, he set a new club record for most assists in a single Premier League season, surpassing David Beckham's mark of 15 from 1999 to 2000. In May 2026, Bruno Fernandes was crowned the FA Footballer of the Year, beating Arsenal's Declan Rice by just 28 votes. He secured 45% of the vote from the English football media, becoming the first United player to win the award since Wayne Rooney in 2010. When asked about Fernandes' transformation, Carrick was characteristically understated. "I think giving Bruno the platform to go and perform," he said. "Like all the players, I think we are trying to create the structure and a team setup, really, to try to bring out the best of everyone within that." Wolves striker Matheus Cunha put it more emotionally. "He passed through hard moments and he deserves to have these beautiful moments also. What a player, what a guy." And then came May 3rd, 2026, the game that changed everything. Manchester United versus Liverpool at Old Trafford, with Champions League qualification on the line. Liverpool had been breathing down United's neck for weeks, and this was the match that would decide it. The game was chaos. Beautiful, terrifying, Old Trafford chaos. And when Kobbie Mainoo, the 21-year-old academy graduate, scored the winning goal to make it 3-2, the stadium didn't just celebrate, it released. Years of frustration, years of disappointment, years of watching other clubs occupy the spaces that United once owned. All of it poured out in a moment of pure, unfiltered joy. That result completed Manchester United's first Premier League double over Liverpool in a decade. It left United 6 points clear of Liverpool in 3rd place. Champions League football was secured. The dream was alive again. Manchester United currently sit 3rd in the Premier League with 64 points from 35 matches, 18 wins, 10 draws, 7 losses. Players like Casemiro and Amad Diallo have publicly backed Carrick for the permanent job. Benjamin Sesko leads the scoring charts with 11 goals. The squad looks united, organised and genuinely dangerous. But here's the question that hangs over all of this. The question that every United fan is asking themselves. Will they actually give Carrick the permanent job? Or will they do what they always do? Will they look at the shiny new option, the continental coach with the impressive PowerPoint presentation, and convince themselves that the grass is greener somewhere else? Because that's the real story here. It's not just about Amorim, it's not just about Carrick. It's about a football club that has spent 13 years and hundreds of millions of pounds searching for something that was right in front of them the entire time. Identity, connection, understanding. The things that can't be bought or imported or manufactured in a boardroom. So Jim Ratcliffe owns 28.94% of the club now. The Glazers still hold the majority. The debt from that leveraged buyout in the early 2000s, roughly £790 million lumped onto the club to fund the Glazers' own purchase, still casts a shadow over everything. Record revenues of £666.5 million sound impressive until you realise the club still lost £33 million. Paul Merson has already criticised Carrick for not being bold enough in his press conferences. When you're manager of Man United, you have to come out and say, "We expect to come here and win," Merson said, after the goalless draw at Sunderland. And maybe he has a point. Maybe the Old Trafford job demands a certain swagger, a certain arrogance. But maybe, just maybe, after 13 years of managers who talked a big game and delivered very little, what Manchester United actually needs is someone who lets the football do the talking. Michael Carrick's record speaks for itself. 10 wins from 14 league games, Champions League secured, a squad that looks happy, organised and playing with purpose for the first time in years. A captain in Bruno Fernandes producing the best individual season the club has seen since Cristiano Ronaldo was in his prime. Manchester United just did it again. They sacked another manager, they went through another caretaker, they endured another period of chaos and uncertainty. But this time, something feels different. This time, the answer might have been there all along, waiting patiently in the northeast of England, coaching Middlesbrough, biding his time, knowing that one day day, Old Trafford would call again. The question now is whether Manchester United have finally learned their lesson, whether the people in charge can resist the urge to look elsewhere and simply trust what's right in front of them. Because if Michael Carrick's 14 games have taught us anything, it's this. Sometimes the solution isn't the next big appointment. Sometimes it's the quiet man who already knows exactly what this club is supposed to be. For more content like this, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Thank you for your support.